Singer Percol, K-Ton, hobbyist game developer slash VTuber. And boy, sorry for taking so long to start. And also, I'm just like, in general, late today. Part of it just being mild mental stuff, but trying to feel a little bit better now, mostly because I do kind of feel like working on some stuff today. But and then also I was having some technical difficulties trying to start upstream, but we're hopefully getting into things now, finally. So, with that now gotten started, I don't quite remember where we left off in terms of the brick situation. Yesterday, I tried to get some work done on the game for the level generation stuff. I didn't really get a whole lot done, unfortunately. I was very brain foggy yesterday. I'm still kind of brain foggy today, but I'm hoping that I can kind of push through it. Part of it is going to be, I believe we still have to figure out some more stuff with how the projectiles are going to work when they are throwing weapons. For example, the brick in particular will be a weapon that cannot pierce enemies, at least not off the bat. There might be some stuff that allows us to make bricks pierce enemies, but for now, they won't. And I think the idea is supposed to be that once it is, hit a wall, or hit the last enemy of its piercing, if it can pierce, or just hit the last enemy it can hit. It will drop to the floor as a physics debris object. That's the general idea. Now, there are a couple of things to figure out with that. Number one being whether or not we can reconfigure a rigid body on the fly. 'Cause something I really do still need to do is I would like to create a casing system in which weapons can eject casings that are physics objects that roll around on the ground, but are still object pooled, so that to save on resources. And part of allowing it to be object pooled means that we need to be able to configure these objects in such a way that there is one commodity prefab that can then be modified into whatever prefab that we need it to be. Which is always kind of a bit of a challenge. As it stands, a good kind of starting point for it is mostly just going to be the fact that, like, they'll all have probably a capsule collider, if I had to say. If I had to, like, choose one. At the same time, I think it would also kind of suck if it couldn't, like, land on one of its faces, rather than only ever being able to land on its sides. But in order to be able to do that, we would have to support being able to change the physics object on the fly, which I'm not entirely sure is like a well-supported function of rigid bodies, unless it is. Regardless, and yeah, like I was saying, I was trying to get stuff done yesterday, and I got like a little bit of code written, just not as much as I was hoping. I was very fuzzy yesterday. I got some things done, but just I wish I got more done in general. But I do want to try and figure out where we're at with throwing bricks. as it stands, we can kind of just, like, get things down to, just making the projectile work for now, and then worrying about trying to figure out the, like, special effects of leaving bricks on the ground later. So the main things that we do have. We were starting to work on a system for this. And let me go ahead and open the C# project. I believe we last left off, we were making a component that would have its spin going through the air. I can't remember exactly how it was supposed to be running, though. I'm going to go ahead and unpin a lot of the level gen stuff temporarily until I get back to it. All that should be fine. Not iron spin I'm looking for. It's another thing we had. We'll get that later. We get projectiles. Projectile throwing spin was the component that we made. Right, okay, so this is completely to do. I did not do anything on this class. Let's figure that out then. I think for one, I was definitely trying to figure out where everything is going to be placed on this. Which I think in general, projectile throwing spin is probably going to be placed on... Actually, we'll put it on the same object as the other components, but we will have a transform reference. So a serialized field, private transform spin handle. And that'll be what we end up spinning. I'll figure out whether or not we can do a local rotate around method. Or if we're going to have to do, like, inverse transform this spin axis. So the idea behind the spin axis is that this is a local a local direction. The other thing is, we'll probably want to start putting in some details to various weapons that'll let it apply various properties to things like throwing spin projectiles. I still want to keep the idea that we have a generic projectile for most of the different projectiles in the game, and then allowing the weapon code to then apply various properties to it. So, for example, projectile throwing spin, where we have a spin axis to the right and an RPM of basically 3 per second, is going to be good for the brick. However, if we want to do like a grenade, we might do like a more oblique angle of spin to it. We might have it spin slower, we might have it spin faster. If you want to do like a shuriken, we would want to change the spin axis to straight up rather than right, and then make the spin speed RPM a lot faster. Yeah, that'd be like easily 6-10-ish per second. And rather than having to create a new projectile prefab for every weapon that does that, I would like to be able to just have the weapon say, hey, I have a throwing projectile that has this model and it behaves like this. That's kind of what I want to be able to do with it. Now, the real question is figuring out how to actually handle that. I was considering, part of what I was considering was the idea that we move to using the weapon display component that I was using for, creating weapons. The idea behind that whole system is that the weapon model is a prefab variant of the model file, the FBX file, as imported by Unity. The variant file will then have the weapon display handler script, as well as all the other references that it's going to need, and any other things I need to attach to it. For example, in the future, we're going to be attaching a weapon animator to each of these weapon models as well. This weapon model prefab is then used in a number of contexts to provide a consistent display of the weapon between its various display contexts, such as when it's on the ground, when it's in the player's hands, when it's in the item shop, when it is being upgraded and shows the little cool upgrade animation I want to do that's like inspired by Ratchet and Clank type deal. That's the kind of idea I want to go for. I need to remember I'm supposed to be looking at the center of the screen, not the webcam anymore, because of the eye tracking. I'll get used to it eventually. But, what else? But I was trying to figure out whether we're going to end up using the weapon model of the throwing weapon on the projectile, or whether or not that would be feasible to do. In theory, something we tried to do is there's now a drop prefab brick. This is sort of going off of the spare magazine framework that's already present in the weapon model system. And the idea is that this is supposed to be the physics object that gets dropped. However, at the same time, I did kind of limit the number of dropped magazines a weapon could have to 3 at a time. And that's supposed to be also controllable via options menu settings as well. Granted, right now it's not adjustable, but I want to make it adjustable with the options menu later. And throwing weapons like this would look kind of silly if it was despawning very quickly, but I guess it's not that bad of a issue, when I think about it. There being like 3 on the floor, I'd say that's reasonable, so we probably could use the magazine drop for that. Probably. I can see it working. But the real question is the projectile. The big one's the projectile. The main thing I'm trying to figure out is how we apply the model to the projectile. So again, right now, we just have empty thing, and the idea is that we attach a model to it. I'm trying to figure out whether or not we want the entire weapon model to just be slapped onto this thing. That might be, performance-wise, a little bit of a unwise decision. Primarily because, brain fart. Where am I going with this? Like, we first have to instantiate the projectile, and then we have to instantiate the weapon model. Seems a little bit much. Especially with how much kind of data structure goes into a weapon model. Especially with the animator. Granted, the animator for throwing weapons are going to be very, very simple. At least I think they are. Actually, one big thing is that there are going to be, like, akimbo throwing knives. Those will be kind of a little bit more complicated in the, Oh my gosh, I just had this... I had the silliest idea just now. Akimbo throwing bricks. Oh, gosh. That's a funny idea. I've got to put that into the game, don't I? Akimbo throwing bricks. I have to put that into the game, don't I? It's almost too stupid. It's almost too stupid. Akimbo throwing bricks. Maybe as a legendary. Maybe as like a weapon in like a future expansion or DLC. We could do that. For now, I probably won't do it. But in a future expansion, maybe. I probably will just, like, write it down somewhere, though. Just because that is actually kind of a funny concept. I might just throw it on the Trello for now. Kimbo throwing bricks. Implement much later, possibly in expansion. Just because, like, I talk about this idea, and it is a funny and fantastic idea, but at the same time, it's a little too ridiculous for this expansion, and I just want to focus on the brick being there. Could... That's a cursed idea, but that could work. My thought is, we instantiate the projectile once at the weapon's initialization, disable it, place it within the weapon, and then also apply the model that we want it to have, and then whenever we fire the projectile, we actually just instantiate the modified prefab that we've attached to that weapon. That might not be so bad. That might be our best option. As it stands, doing, I'd have to ask Olivia what she thinks about object pooling the projectiles, because it would make sense to do so, but man, trying to manage that kind of thing would be very tricky, especially for throwing weapons that have this kind of thing. Sacred Protocol Yummy, how are you doing? Excuse me. Blech. It's my gloopy noopy.
Headpats incoming.
Meow. Meow, meow. 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 Alright, thanks for luck. Good luck with work today, Amy. And as it stands, I am absolutely just a perfectionist and OCD as fuck. I should just, at the current moment, do it the most convenient way possible. I think at the moment, a simple idea is the idea that I just came up with, where we take the projectile prefab, instantiate it, attach the model, and then have that be the prefab that we use with the weapon. And then for now, we won't necessarily do any sort of object pooling for it. We will just instantiate it, annoyingly, but that'll probably work for now. Like, in theory, we could do a per-weapon projectile pooling, which is not as powerful as... I mean, the thing is that the magazines are kind of already per weapon anyways. Having projectiles be per weapon is probably not that bad either. But also, I'm not sure which would be better on memory anyways. It's something I could probably talk to Olivia about. Actually, I'm gonna, like, try to mention something. But for now, I am just going to be handling it in a basic instantiation way. But intention is, first of all, I do want to do a public void set spin parameters. And then we're just going to have this almost like it's a constructor, essentially. I almost want to, like, throw together, like, just have... I'm going to have Visual Studio generate a constructor like that. And then I'm actually just going to turn this into a void set spin parameters, if I can spell correctly today. We might not do transform sprint handle though. We mostly wanted to do the RPM and the axis. In fact, I want to reverse these. Oh wait, never mind. I can't because in order to specify a default for a... You can't specify a default for a struct because it requires using a constructor for something that isn't const. Like, you cannot define structs as consts, unfortunately. So I don't think so. Yeah, if I did director 3.1. Come on. doesn't quite show me if it's static const. I'm fairly certain it's static and not const. I can actually just rename these. All right. Yeah, because we could probably do like a within base projectile behavior, we can tell it to have, you know, references to any of the components that would define how a projectile looks and behaves, and then provide methods for a weapon to then reference specifically the base projectile behavior and tell it, hey, this projectile looks like this, and then have it configure, and then be able to use that as a prefab. So we'll have stuff like that. As it stands, looks like projectiles do have a gravity of 8, but we could probably have a method that sets that as well. It is a serialized field. If we instantiate it, do we have a start method within projectile ballistics? I don't think so. Base projectile behavior doesn't have anything. Neither does projectile player generic. So now it should be so what I'll have to do is probably just set up each of these, do this sort of pattern where we have a serialized private kind of read-only backing field. In fact, in that case, I technically can do this sort of field, serialized field. Public. So you have a reference to projectile ballistics. Let's reference projectile throwing spin. And then it's a get private set. And this is just one variable, and we only have a couple of projectiles that do this. We could go ahead and convert this one over too. I think we will. I really need to get a snippet for this. You know what? Fuck it. Small field trip. Field trip. I'm tired of this. We're gonna add a code snippet. I'm tired of doing this. We're gonna add a code snippet. What I need is... I have to remember where the fuck I keep my code snippets at. Actually, I wonder if I could find something in here where I can find it. Maybe if I hit this... I've got to have shortcuts to these. I don't actually have to press the button. I can actually just type SC component reference or SC tooltip summary. That's not quite what I wanted. Code snippets manager. Here we go. Aha, it is here in documents, of course. Visual Studio 2019. Code snippets. Visual C#. Code snippets. I'll start with this one. This is the XML for the community component get one. But technically speaking, I actually have to, like, save this somewhere else and then import it into the thing. Alright. Call this Unity property with serialized backing field. Say creates a property with a public get and private set with the backing field being serialized by Unity. All right. A question. How do you do... Okay, looks like, looks like I can just throw the thingies in there. It's not field serialize field. Is it like that? Let's no D. Just serialize field. And so we want public class name. And then we want get private set. And then we don't need that final semicolon. Ah, so you have to go there. I'm actually going to make the default class T, so I have to specify the type. And now I need to... This might go somewhere weird. I'm going to blur screen for a sec. Control Shift Save. That's not what I wanted. Save as Control Alt S. Okay, sorry. I want to put this into resources, scripts. Call this Unity property serialize. Cool. Find screen blur. Where do I put the shortcut again? Might be in one of the actual snippet files. Ah, see, it's shortcut. See if I can't put that in here. I'm gonna do SC. I don't remember what SC actually stands for. There's a couple of things it could stand for, and I don't like them. I think it's probably shortcut is what it probably stands for. So save that there. And I'm going to import. Let me import. Mystery and Gangs, of course, goes to documents. Resources, scripts. It's only showing me .snippet files. I've got to resave that as .xml? Fuck off. Rename to .snippet. Just fucking silly. I have to set it back to XML. Like, there it is. Properly serialized back in the field. Put into my code snippets. Let's unblur screen now. Okay. It still says missing or unspecified language attribute on all of them, which is annoying. Also, actually, something I've been meaning to do. I'm gonna get rid of the duplicate one. I say, except I can't remove it. I can't remove these. That's annoying. Anyways, it should show up now. Just like that. Projectile ballistics. Projectile ballistics. And then we just get rid of this. It is going to break a couple of references, and we will fix those promptly. But this is a thing that I kind of need to be doing to a lot of stuff within the project in many places to kind of standardize the code. So I gotta get it out of the way at some point. So I'm gonna open up the enemy generic bullet, fix this, save, open the player generic bullet, fix this, save. Let's go to our player throwable ballistic. We do actually still have a projectile ballistic, so we'll grab that. Let's also go ahead and throw in projectile throwing spin, which you can also reference. We'll then add create empty. I'm gonna call this throw spin cannon. We also make sure that we zero out this thing's transform. I'm gonna make sure we do that for all of them. It's not super important, but I do prefer doing that. The button. I can specify that right there. And I do believe projectile ballistics will manipulate the projectile's transform forward angle as it moves, but could be wrong. It does. Transform.forward equals velocity.normalized. Perfect. So then if we do have a throwing projectile that doesn't change its rotation as it's thrown, we just want it to like point forward, it'll work with that. For example, if we add a spear. So we might have to add spears. As it stands, I do have to add a lot of throwing weapons just to kind of fill out the category, but at the same time, version 1 of the game isn't going to really have anybody who has throwing affinity as it stands. Technically speaking, Amy is going to have wait, what's the word is it proficiency? I don't know if proficiency is the correct term I'm looking for on that. Not quite mastery either, even though it's a bonus to the mastery XP for the weapon. Affinity, that's what it is. It's affinity is the actual in-game term, is type affinity. Annie is going to have type affinity with most of the throwing weapons, specifically because they're going to have the explosive tag, which is going to be one of Annie's affinity tags. Which is a mechanic that is nowhere close to being actually implemented right now, but it is a thing that I want to be considering as I'm kind of filling out the weapons list. I want there to be throwing weapons, but at the same time, I gotta figure out how to actually make them worthwhile, because the fact that some most of the characters don't actually get affinity from them. But as it stands, I also have a plan to add a character who does have throwing affinity. It's likely going to be Dax Jag. But so I probably do want to have like a method on here called public void set gravity. Whoops. Gravity. And for now, it's just going to be this dot gravity equals gravity. The projectile velocity is actually handled by weapon scripts entirely. Oh, but we can also have like a set bullet size. Actually call it set projectile size. I could probably add those variables to projectile properties. And these values. These generally don't get modified all that much, so I probably won't be doing like base to any of these. It'll just be projectile gravity and then projectile size 0 by default. Okay. Yeah, it's funny because we actually do already have a system where the projectile prefab is determined on startup because Unity has an issue where if you try to reference a prefab asset by a component type that is inherited from another component type, Unity kind of shits the bed when you do so. It works in engine, or sorry, it works in editor, and then doesn't work in build. This was a problem that I experienced with Jack Schmidt. We had that issue. Where it worked fine in editor, did not work fine in build. The moment you loaded up a scene, boom, dead, exploded. It just quit instantly. Didn't even have time to show the Unity crash thing. It just immediately died. Wacky behavior. So you could probably hook it into this system. Although, more likely, we'll have it initialize. Usually I'm noticing that, don't exactly have... We don't have like an on-initialized in the weapon behavior, because the initializer is in equipable weapon instead. I might actually have something to where base weapon behavior has that method. So for now, we will have virtual void on initialize, and it's just gonna be an empty thing. Which actually I have something similar with here on equip. Granted, do we need a player status for this? It would be pertinent. Actually, that is an interesting concept. Here's the interesting thing to consider. So, player 1 picks up a weapon, drops the weapon on the floor. Player 2 picks it up. How do we know that we are now equipped to a different player? I mean, the equipable will have the on-equip change. The big issue is the equipable weapon has initialize new weapon. Which I could have sworn there was a thing that required, yeah, so like this requires equipped player. That is a problem. That would be a problem where it would attach it to the wrong player. So you have to figure that out then. Unless set weapon display. When you equip weapon, what else calls set weapon display? There are 3 references. Would you also call it non-equip? Okay, you know what? Then that's fine. I think I understand now. Which is interesting. I wonder if that's being called twice. Where would we normally be calling set weapon display? Are we doing an initialize new weapon? Which initialize new weapon gets called... the on collect... Interesting. So... run set weapon display? But then this doesn't run this because it's not equipped to the player. Which just ends up, like, putting everything onto itself. Which isn't bad. I guess that sort of makes sense. It's funny, because then that still means that, like... there might be a situation which I want to set weapon display on a weapon that's currently equipped. There might be a situation. And in that situation, that would, you know, work. So I guess that makes sense. Okay, okay. Sure, sure. Alright. I forget what I was going off on that tangent for. I think it was entirely just because I was curious about us knowing player. Probably actually don't want to throw that non-initialize. We want that to be kind of player agnostic. But we are going to go into equipable weapon. Big issue is... we'll find our initialize again. This is what I was trying to figure out, was... this does basically reset the experience system. If we want to serialize this weapon from a... or deserialize this weapon from a save file, we probably need something else going on here. Maybe. Maybe. Well, Let's run this after display handler is set up. Then we do weapon behavior on initialize. It's gonna be how I set that up. And a big thing that we're gonna want to do is in the weapon behavior generic ballistic, we'll set up our projectile prefab. Which I'm gonna make it its own private method. In fact, I think I do want to be base projectile behavior. Initialize projectile. The idea is that at the end we will return projectile prefab, and then in between there we will want to set that. So then that becomes, so if projectile prefab is null and serialized projectile prefab, and then we'll run here and okay, base projectile prefab is a, base projectile behavior is a Unity, component. So we'll do if, kind of move a lot of this stuff simplified. Stuff like this. So projectile prefab is valid, or if initialize projectile is valid, you'll do that. Probably also do something similar, where we have a guard clause here. If projectile prefab has already been, actually, no, because, I do want to have, I want to retain the ability to, like, forcefully, update the projectile prefab if necessary. In which case, actually, what we want to do is, the projectile prefab is currently exists, then we want to go ahead and delete it. and set projectile prefab to null. And then we're going to go ahead and set this up. I may even have like a get component kind of deal where we have like a base class of like modify projectile, and then we attach a bunch of things that modify the projectile. So like there'd be a component that inherits from modify projectile that says like modify bullet projectile, and that will do like, you know, changing the gravity, changing the size. And then we'll have another one that's like modify projectile trail, and then that modifies projectile trail, and then another one that's like modify projectile throwing, and that will let you specify in a object to throw, and the spin variables. That'd be the concept anyways. Just had the idea of the boss's wacky cut down XM16, because it's supposed to have the bullets tumble through the air or whatever. And then I'm thinking of like, you know, oh, a bullet that has the item spin or the throwing spin animation to it. And it's like, that would be a situation that would call for that. Which, yeah, that is a thing that we could do. Alright, well, we're going to assume that because projectile prefab hasn't been set, or we have just deleted projectile prefab, that we want to be coming off of our serialized projectile prefab, which means we need to do the following. We need to do actually need to do a try get component. Actually, first we have to do serialized projectile prefab. Try get component. This should work on a prefab. Out base projectile behavior. Projectile behavior. Granted, okay, so projectiles determine the weapon they belong to by catching inherited source. So I guess that makes sense. It's probably not that unperformant to do that, to keep it that way. And then we could do set damage source. Right. I see what we're doing now. Also gonna have a error here. Pluses because I have this template string. Game object name failed to initialize projectile prefab. Does not exist or is missing a projectile behavior script. I'm just gonna duplicate this. So first do the null check on the prefab, and then try get component. And yes, unfortunately, we can't do the null coalescing argument in Unity. Because their garbage collection is weird. Alright. So now we're gonna set this up. Var our prefab equals instantiate. Take projectile behavior. Transform parent will be this transform. It should be the root of the weapon, which will be attached to the player anyways. We do false for instantiate in world position. And then we can use this type. Oh, I'm also missing a semicolon there. From there, we can then do our prefab, set damage source. I believe we go this. Never mind, we go equipable. Gotcha. And then we'll start with the following. If... Let's actually do... I'm gonna call it balls. I don't care. We'll set balls to our prefab projectile ballistics. If there is a projectile ballistics, set balls, gravity, set gravity. Projectile, nope. Projectile gravity. Let's set projectile size. There it is. Maybe something similar for throwing spin. Getting that from it. Which I guess we have to add values for that as well, even if they're not necessarily used. actually has to be vector 3. Which will make it right for now. Honestly, you could make normal bullets spin too. That's, you know, bullets do normally spin when they come out of the gun. It is called rifling. But they spin like a football. With the forward axis. We can theoretically do that. In theory, initialized projectile should happen after we set our weapon display. I think for now we are just going to duplicate our weapon display onto it. But I am going to make that controllable with the following. Serialized field, protected bool, apply weapon model to projectile, which is false by default. Alright. You can actually still do throwing spin, set spin parameters. Projectile spin axis. Spin speed. Which I will make throwing spin the general target for this. I'm actually gonna go to throwing spin real quick. So we don't actually have a way to access spin handle from here. But we could probably just make a public access for it. Which technically speaking means that we need one of those private backing fields, or serialized backing fields. There is probably a way to automate that. I just don't remember, or don't feel like looking up how. Technically speaking. We're gonna need to do this. Transform, spin, handle. And in theory, we can also attach the detachable effects to the spin handle as well. Save that. That is going to cause a change here. We're going to have to fix that. Actually, I never set the spin handle here anyways, so no damage done. That's fine. We'll actually go ahead and do if apply weapon model to projectile. Then we'll do the following. To instantiate the equipables display handler. We attach it to throwing spin. Come on. Spin handle. False for world position stays. No, not float, false. Use explicit type here. And then we go. Oh my gosh, you know what I just... Wait, what happened to my tracking? How long has this been like this? What's going on here? Can you turn this off, please? Okay. That's off. My Toby tracker has just died. The lights are not on. What the fuck happened here? What is going on here? Huh. It's being real weird all of a sudden. Let me see if I can fix this. Well, that launched over there now. That's weird. It is not responding at all. Oh, wait. Oh, okay. Hang on. Hang on. It is hot, but it's not more hot than usual. It has now turned on, though. The lights are now on. Or maybe it is overheating. Who knows? Alright. If I turn this back on, is it going to explode? Up, there we go. Okay, we are back. The tracker is correct now. Cool. That was weird. So who knows, it might end up happening again. Because it is still hot. It's not even that hot in the room. It's a vacuum. Alright. Sorry about that. There gonna tell the model instance to set weapon display. Tell it to equip to this weapon. Actually, hang on. What all does this do? I kind of don't want this. I think we're going to need a new method for this, actually. Real quick, I'm going to call this set throwing display instead. Call it set throwing display. Oh, Unfunny Man, thank you very much for rating. Staying Green Protocol. I've seen you around here before, I think. See what you're up to. Fallout 3. Interesting. Interesting. It's alright. We're kind of doing game devy stuff today, and I'm still trying to get things fixed so that we can actually throw bricks. We're trying to throw bricks right now. Is the goal of today's stream. But Senior Protocol, I am Katon, hobbyist game developer slash VTuber. Exactly. Slash streamer. I'm trying to get rid of the VTuber label, honestly. I'm not a fan of what's been going on in the space lately. I'm not sure if we can boot up the game without it breaking right now. I know we've made a change recently. A douche run. I see. Hold on. I'll pull up my GitHub just so that I can kind of remind myself of what I've just changed. That's right, we are going to need to fix because we changed how our projectile is initialized, which means we need to make sure... Actually, no, that should still work. Think about it, because weapon behavior, generic, ballistic. For now, we will need to kind of comment this out for a sec. We're gonna set this up in a sec, but technically speaking, we still have the public accessor that will check for the initialized projectile. But we do want to move that into beginning to crash. I'm gonna step back. All right, you have a good night. You having a good night, man who is unfunny. That's right. So we wanted this to then override on initialize now. So now I can run initialize projectile as part of its initialize step. I believe this does fire as part of initialize new weapon. Yes. Although I probably do still want something where when we instantiate this from a save data, we'll probably need to make sure that it also calls its on initialized stuff. An initialized new weapon is for a weapon that is being initialized because it is new and being spawned right now. Yeah. Oh, State Group Protocol Lulz, how are you doing? I see you're... Or actually, you might not have been the one who led the raid. This is not showing you as a raider here. Could be better for real. I I've definitely been kind of blech today. Understandable, understandable. Well, I know you're not the raider, because the raider was Unfunny Man. I meant, like, whether or not you came with the raid, or whether or not you led the raid here. But. I'm trying to make sure things function, because I was going to show off. I wanted to show off before Unfunny Man's squad dropped out, but they probably already are dropping out. But I did want to kind of boot up what we've got so far, and hopefully everything is fixed. It's not fixed. In fact, what we're probably going to want to do. Okay. Interesting. I forgot to actually finish this, because once we are done doing this, we actually need to set projectile prefab to that. Whoops. We do also need to make sure that set active false. Which does mean that when we shoot bullet, we need to make sure that it is initialized as well. Assuming we can just do it immediately. Yeah, I probably do want to do that immediately. Alright. Projectile behavior, game object, set active, true. That way we won't have just a weird bullet that's stuck in our hand. That would be preferable. And we did get the initialized projectile. Yeah. Got that now. That should now work. Keyword should. Looks like it is functioning better now. And don't just ignore the fact that our weapon's being held incorrectly right now. There's a problem with the 45 at the moment, just because it's an older model. It's like one of the first models I made as an art test for the game. And it's got a couple of bugs as a result. We still need to remake this model almost entirely, but we're going to replace it with Ellie here. So, Toaster Gun. It's a top-down shooter roguelike game. I should be doing the... I think even if I don't actually have it in a state where I can show it off, I should still be doing the command. So you can see that. And then I've got some enemies who are actually working. So let's do that. Pick up all of the money, even though we don't have anything to do anything with it yet. And there we go. We've also got all sorts of abilities and stuff. So I've got the super jump. And it also gives me a bonus crit rate whilst I am doing that little jump. It's currently on a cooldown, but in the future I'm going to be moving to a stamina system. There's also a dodge maneuver. There's a little bit long of a dodge. I might reduce the speed of it. I want it to look faster than the walk, but at the same time, it's hard to give it like a duration that feels fair that way. Although it could actually be shorter. It could be shorter. Maybe. Okay, but so that's all working now. Let's see if we can start working on our brick. Yeah, so we do need to set up the set throne display. In order to set throne display, we need to go to weapon display handler. That's what we're setting this up for. It's going to be similar to the set weapon display. Do we have like a set akimbos? We'll probably do that there. So probably set that up. So public void set throne display. Call it transform target. So similarly, we'll do this. Set parent to target, and then position rotation. Hang on, I have to sneeze. No. Bleh. Attached to weapon doesn't really get used for anything else within weapon display handler. However, I think the weapon animator might get confused. So I think I'll probably end up having to set up dash to weapon as null in the throne display. Probably. We'll need to also do the weapon animator. Probably do need to clear the equipped weapon. I'm gonna grab all this code and then we'll modify it for this. So we'll actually just bring everything to ourselves. Set local position rotation. If is akimbo, we actually want to do akimbo weapon render enabled equals false. The idea is this is just the left-hand weapon. This assumes that the left hand and right hand weapon are the same. And if it isn't, we're probably going to have something in the weapon script that handles it differently. We'll probably just, like, extend this method to do that later. Anyways, we're gonna clear the equipped weapon for now. And then also run set idle pose. Turn all magazines. Cool. So we'll go back to weapon behavior generic ballistic, and we'll do that. Model instance, set throne display. Something like landed on my head. Also left, like, black dust on my hand. That's weird. Anyways. No idea what that was. Okay. Which, funnily enough, we already have the throwing spin handle here. Which means I'll probably actually just do the instantiate by default, and then just have set throne display figure itself out. Sorry if I'm getting attacked by bugs behind my back or something. That all should be good to go. Oh, not this problem again. Having that weird thing where things get, like, stuck as selected on my taskbar. Okay, let's see. What are we missing for setting up the brick? We have the equipable weapon set up. Oh! We need to set the serialized projectile recap. Should be able to actually just do this. Assets. Projectile player throwable ballistic. There. Apply a weapon model to projectile. Probably do also want to set up some stuff for being able to modify the trail that the projectile leaves. Yeah, we probably will be still throwing a lot of weapons that have, like, missiles that have different kinds of effects behind them. Those we will probably want to just create a new prefab for. But I think like the majority of weapons are probably just going to be using the couple of ballistic prefabs that it then equips onto itself. And then customizes itself for itself. And it could probably also, in the future, have it object pool those projectiles. But it'll probably be a pretty hefty object pool on its own. One thing I haven't figured out, what's the item form position for this thing? Actually, I think the item form position is probably just going to be... It'd probably be the default position, probably the same position that it is. Probably. Also, I might actually set up, in projectile throwing spin, we could probably actually set it up such that we'll have a Boolean, and if that Boolean is true, we'll actually have it instead of, we could have it get a reference to a weapon display handler, and if it has a display handler on it, it'll try to drop a magazine from the display handler on contact. We could do that. As it stands, how do we handle all this stuff? We probably want base projectile behavior. Oh, you know what? It's gonna be in projectile ballistics. What you do is stopped. Let's run this projectile behavior.onExpire, which you can define depending on what we want. Which we normally just destroy game object. But in the future, we could hack this into being a object pooling system instead. Okay. In fact, we could even do a object pool for enemy projectiles as well. And we can handle that per enemy type rather than per instance of enemy. Because the idea would be that, like, I think if we do ever support multiplayer, I think at most we'll have 2 players. At which point you could probably do like the maximum number that we could expect one enemy to have projectiles at. Like, for example, the grunts could potentially have up to 5 bullets active at one time because their bursts are like 2 to 5 bullets randomized. So we could do 5 slots times like 10 minions at a time is like the maximum number of minions that could be in an encounter. And then there could be 2 players in 2 separate encounters, so we do 20. So then 5 times 20, it's the object pool of 100, but just for that projectile. And we handle the same thing for like each other enemy. We can have that handled specifically within the enemy's enemy info data object rather than its the other thing. Okay. But I do think I want to set that up. I want to set this up. Serialized field. Yeah, in that case, we wouldn't even need to reference the spin handle. We could have like a method that's like set weapon display. Weapon display handler. Weapon display. Then we can move the this stuff to the method. And then I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that we have the documentation. I need to start doing more documentation. I've made a lot of methods recently, and not all of them have documentation. Actually, I think many of them have not done documentation within the last 2 days of work. Probably want this. Have it reference our spin handle. Set the weapon display model instance. There we go. Use the apply weapon display handler instance to this projectile. can also do a boolean here. Private bool drop magazine on hit. You might also want to do like, I'm gonna do like a to co to consider somewhere around here. To co. Projectile that sticks to enemies. Oh man, no, you know what? This sounds like scope creep. Potentially your feature creep. You'd never know which one it is, actually. It sounds like feature creep. Huntsman shenanigans? Pinning enemies to walls? That would be cool. Maybe. Wouldn't come up all that often, because most of the time you're fighting enemies who aren't up against walls, but it could be cool. And projectiles that stick to enemies, I think, would be a cool concept. set drop on hit false by default. Okay. We can have a public void drop on hit. We can also have it return specifically spare magazine. We can have it return the magazine that gets dropped. If weapon display is not valid, actually we can also check if not drop magazine on hit or weapon display isn't valid, return null. We probably do also want to check weapon display. Because that does return that. How do you normally handle magazine drops if you don't have a magazine to drop? I would like to find out. Create spare magazines, return all magazines, select spare magazine to drop, and drop magazine. Oh, we are going to need to make sure we run select spare magazine to drop first. Oh, no, drop magazine does that for us. Okay, I see. If mag is not valid, return null. And I think if has drop magazines not ready, then return yeah. So that works. So then it'll handle itself then. I'll probably actually do another method, which is public void hide on hit, where if weapon display, then weapon display set visible false, which is just going to turn off its renderers, but won't be enough. And for now, we're going to assume that we're dropping exactly on where our spin handle is currently located and facing. So weapon display, drop magazine, position to be spin handle, position, spin handle, rotation. I might need some values for, like, what the velocity is gonna be. Potentially. I could also have, the projectile, figure that out. Oh, I do want to also do return this in functions. I need to go to the bathroom for a bit. So I'm going to go BRB and I'm gonna run a ad break as well. You guys go on standby. Everybody take a stretch break. Get yourself some extra water. Make sure you also maybe go to the bathroom as well. I'll be away for 3 to 5 minutes. Stand by. I'll be right back. I return. Trying to figure out if there's anything else I was waiting on figuring out. I just set up these, which I do actually need to implement these real quick. Projectile ballistics. So I'm gonna come through here and gotta do real quick a private void. Actually, we'll do a public void. Stop behavior. I also have that feed in what it actually did, whether or not it actually hit a target. Wait, if not is stopped, blocked. So probably actually have like a... Okay, in that case, we do dual blocked. And then we do stop behavior true. Similarly here, stop behavior false. We might want to do some sort of thing here where we know whether it was like blocked or successfully dealt damage. But for now, we are just going to be doing some basic stuff here. Projectile behavior. Does it have... Check if it has a throwing spin. Actually, I'm gonna do set that. That's actually handled by the throwing spin is the whether or not it drops. So our spin will first call drop on hit, and then we'll call hide on hit. By the way, Okay, this only sets us to return all magazines if we're coming from... Wait. If our target state... I probably don't want that. In fact, yeah, there's no reason for that to be like that. When I think about it. Okay. And then later, in fact, I'll actually probably put like a to-do sticky projectiles. Probably do kinematic on the rigid body of the dropped magazine. That's probably how I'd do that. Which again, drop on hit is going to return a weapon spare magazine, so we can use that. Fly in my room now. Great. So I can actually do, oops. This, and it's gonna yell at us that this isn't used, but we'll use it eventually. I can actually do if drop the mag. And then we can put this in there for now. You can also do, to do bounce, velocity, granted, one thing we can do is, prefab variants aren't a terrible idea in terms of, being able to set certain settings. But I think I do also want, generally speaking, to have the weapon kind of specify kind of details it wants on the projectile. But, this should be good enough for now. We might be ready for a weapon. Actually, bring our base projectile velocity down to 20. Bring our hip fire actually down to like 10, 20 when aiming. Slightly higher gravity. That's like slightly more realistic. We do want a size now. Just looking at this, we have a box collider here. So our thinnest side is 0.12, so I'll probably go with a projectile size of make it a little bit generous. We'll go with like 0.2. Although I think it's like 0.1 because it's a radius. Something like this. Should be fire mode semi. And the fire tick delay reload is turned off for this. We have throw weapon heavy. Cool. I'm gonna place the weapon model uncommon throwing brick. Actually, I shouldn't, because what I actually want to place is the model itself. This is how I normally do this. Here. And then do prototype weapon spawner. You're spawning. Uncommon throwing brick. Base level 1. We don't have a weapon instance. You do delete on spawn though. Let's actually go to our weapon info and make sure everything's set up. We do not have an equipable weapon prefab. We probably want to fix that. Data, prefabs, weapons, throwing, weapon uncommon, throwing brick, and then drop down prefab. This is deprecated because now we're using the spawn manager for it. We do have the display handler prefab set at least. Right. So, rate of fire 1, ammo capacity 1, reload time is 1.4, draw time 0.3. Actually, I'm gonna go with like a reload time of like I'm gonna boost this shit. 1 second is slow. 1.4 seconds even slower, actually. Granted, I know that part of that is because of the fact that it is it's heavily affected by reload speed, which means that the more dexterity you have, the higher this weapon's effective fire rate is. However, 1.4 is probably a little slow. Maybe. Also, yeah. I do have to figure out a system to, I'm actually gonna make sure I make a Trello card for this. This is kind of an important thing that I need to get done. Dynamically drawn weapon display icon on HUD, because I do not want to have to make a PNG for every single weapon. That's gotta be done sometime soonish. Joe will have to figure out how exactly that's gonna work. Would that mean that we have a second weapon display handler somewhere, potentially placed in the world? Do we animate that second weapon display handler? how do we animate that? How do we display it? Do we display it in item form? We might display it in item form, honestly. Which means that we don't animate it. But also, the benefit of having that dynamically rendered on the HUD is that we can also have the enchantment glint happen on the HUD as well as on the weapon in world space. It's likely it'll be done that way. As it stands, Ami's starter pistol weapon icon has been our placeholder weapon icon for now. But see if we can throw some bricks. Why? I forgot to set the room. I forgot to set the room. You need to set it to room 1. There we go. There we go. Okay. Brick acquired. Interestingly, I'm noticing what happened to our thing. Hold on. That's weird. Why is our brick being weird? Oh, you know what? There isn't a muzzle. Is there? I mean, question... Yeah, no. Yeah, the muzzle point's set to there. Which is the same as main weapon route. Huh. Wait. So weapon behavior generic ballistic. Runner on initialize. We do initialize projectile. So we do the serious projectile prefab, track a component of the base projectile behavior, instantiate it. We should also be instantiating our display handler. Hold on. We do set apply a weapon model to projectile. But it seems like it's applied the this is the weapon display handler. Hang on. Because this is a weapon model on common throwing brick. We set our display handler. Is there anything... Let me sanity check. The other guns are working fine. As far as I can tell. But then why does the brick throw itself? We set our weapon display to display handler, so we should set that up. Why is this broken? Collect this, to initialize new weapon, we use our display handler on it. Because they've created one, no doubt. So when we initialize projectile, we should be instantiating the display handler, which is this object. And then we do set thrown display, which should be clearing our attached to weapon. By the way, I do actually need to set this back here instead. Is there something going on here? Hang on, let's figure some stuff out. I'm gonna pick up the brick, and then I need to see what's going on here. This, right here, is not... Huh? What is this? Where did this come from? What is this? What the fuck is this? It's gotta be the... It's gotta be... Okay, it's gotta be this then. So it attaches that. Now... $1,000,000 question, ladies and gentlemen. What's been attached to the projectile? I mean, again... The projectile is disabled. It has a clone of the instance. That makes sense. But projectile throwing... Hang on. Oh, I see what's going on here. We're supposed to be calling set weapon display. Okay. Drop weapon model on hit. So instead we do throwing spin set weapon display model instance. And also drop weapon model on hit as parameter. That will set that to that. This still doesn't make any sense. Pause. This is what I wanted. Here's this. That is on that. We go here. It's attached to that. Main weapon renderer is that. None of these references are broken. This is still referencing that. Something about this doesn't make sense. Also, I forgot to... Because it still does that! Why did it do that? Why did it do that? Why is it gone? I'm so fucking confused. Huh? Wait, why are you there? What is going on here? Hold, please. I need to be able to do this quickly. Ah, fuck. Damn it. It's so difficult to time that. Is there a shortcut for pausing? Did I catch it? Did I catch it in time? Just about. Just about. Okay. What is going on here? What is going on here? You're supposed to be here because you're supposed to attach the thing to the player's thing. But you... Why are you now on the projectile? I don't understand. Hold on a second. Whoa, 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 whoa. What? No. Because we do this. Weapon on common target, throwing brick. So we got the weapon model here. It is the weapon that is in here. Or the weapon on common throwing brick that is here. We look at the projectile. You reference that. So what the fuck is happening when you click and all of a sudden it's on the other thing instead? Unity tells me it is referencing the right thing, so why... Why does it suddenly get attached to you? Nothing here is referencing that. You're referencing that. You're there. You're referencing that. So how is Unity screwing this up? Unless there's a field somewhere. You're public. Wait a minute. No, because... Are these a field, serialized field? What is happening here? We could... I'll try something. This is the weirdest fucking thing I've ever seen in Unity. It has to be some stupid part of my code that's not doing it, but I don't know where it is. I've looked through everything. Olivia said I can hop on in a little bit, but that was 2 hours ago. This does not make any sense. What we can try and do is when we initialize this, instead of instantiating display handler according to our equipable, I think we should try and find it from the weapon info. Display handler pretty bad. We try seeing if that changes things. And if not, I'm going to go insane. Because then there should be no fucking possible way for it to be reassigning that. Literally zero way for it to reassign that. Well, now it works. I guess. Yeah, okay, what was going on before? Hang on. I want to see if I can, I cannot get that to happen fast enough. Okay. Damn it, there's gotta be a faster way to do that. Or not a fast way, but like a easier way to do that. What? Why did that one go so short? There we go. Ha ha ha. Okay. I've caught it. Cool. Okay. What the fuck's going on here? So, this is that. You're targeting that. Good. So far, so good. So, you know one problem with this? Is that now it won't reflect the, it won't reflect the weapon's current, display. So if we have a glint or a particle on the display, it's not going to be reflected in the projectile. It won't. So this works. But when I do this, what would be the difference there? Because it looks like it's fine until we instantiate the projectile. With the projectile throwing spin, set weapon display to an instance of weapon display handler. Do model instance dot set thrown display. And, like, this should only ever be called in the initialize. An initialize projectile, which init proj for game object name. So that should only be called exactly once when we pick up the weapon. Div initialize projectile for weapon star enemy. We have initialized projectile for weapon uncommon throwing brick. Is it exactly once, though? So yeah, that causes the problem. It's initialized it again. Why did we initialize it a second time? Oh, hang on. Okay, that would definitely do weird things. I don't know if that fixes it, though. How does that fix that? Wait, what? I'm saying your protocol, or Olivia. I might have accidentally fixed it. I was having a weird fucking problem where it was like reassigning prefab, but I think I might have found the issue. Maybe, because why does that do that? The thing is, what's happening is it means that we do that, but that would just destroy that game object. It might be fixed. Keyword might. I don't know for sure. So there was this weird thing. I don't know why just fixing this. So like, basically what we've set up today is Sacred Profile Felix. Good to have some other people who are better code brains than me in today. Finally. I did have kind of an incorrect thing here where this was an and instead of an or. What's supposed to happen here is that if we access projectile prefab and the thing here hasn't been initialized, then we'll initialize it. Previously it was an and. But what was happening was, for some reason, in fact, let me see if I'm gonna like sudo like attempt to kind of demonstrate what happened, because it doesn't make any sense to me. So right now, in the player's hands is the weapon uncommon throwing brick. This is just the mesh renderer. It does also have the muzzle handle, which has been attached to it as part of the equipped function. We have the weapon uncommon throwing brick here. So we've set up something to where we can have a projectile that has a weapon model attached to it. This is for throwing weapons, for throwing a brick at people. And the way that it works is that it's supposed to instantiate the prefab. Did I switch this back to I did switch it back to the display handler currently on the equipment. Which I wanted to do that because I wanted it to be able to reflect whatever special effects I have on the main weapon. The way that the weapon model works is that whenever we tell it to equip as a weapon, we'll attach this object to the player's hands. And then that'll like move it out of the hierarchy, but it'll still work because Unity skin mesh renderers just function different. And so I checked through the projectile player throwable ballistic, which this is the prefab that has been instantiated as a new prefab for this weapon. So when this weapon fires a projectile, it's going to instantiate this rather than instantiating the asset prefab. Because this has been configured, it's been given the brick model. So we're going to instantiate this. This is a separate weapon model underscore uncommon throwing brick. You can tell because it's clone twice. So then we have the weapon model underscore uncommon throwing brick here. Thank you very much, Felix. Yes, I like how it came out as well. Which this, you'll notice it doesn't have the brick in here, but it is still referencing the correct brick. When I click on this, it pops this. This is the one that's in the player's hands. That's what's supposed to happen, right? It's still there. It's still there. And then it also references the spare magazine prefab, which is there, and that's different. And then the projectile is given an instantiation of this. And I'm now realizing... I'm just now realizing why that might be a problem. Because we might be instantiating this while it doesn't have the actual brick model underneath it. That is a problem. But what was happening before was that, like, it would suddenly reattach this to the projectile. Or it would get rid of it and then attach it to the projectile. And I think it might have actually just been because... Do we have an on-destroy in this? And I don't have an on-destroy on this. I don't know. It was doing something weird. But also, I do think I do need to switch it back to using the item prefab. Thanks for the rubber ducking, I guess. I don't know if Olivia is still here after I... thanks for the rubber ducking. Where was I? Yeah. I'm just gonna stick a to-do here. Make projectile model reflect weapon properties. I'm just gonna put that in there for now. Because if we instantiate the weapon info's model prefab, because our weapon model might not be put together right now. So we need to make sure that's set up like that. Alright. Actually, start doing a little bit more documentation as well. Weapons, projectile, prefab. Applies weapons. Damn it. Specific appearance and behavior parameters should only ever be done once per. No, that makes sense now. Now I realize why I was doing that. Because we that's exactly what happened. It was entirely because we instantiated it. We instantiated the weapon model whilst the weapon model had its brick placed in the player's hands. And so that instance did not create a new brick, and instead took the brick out of the player's hands and then attached it to itself as it became a projectile. That's what happened. It's a miracle the other bricks worked at all, honestly. Cool. Once at the weapon's creation, or if anything major changes with the weapon, such as upgrades or legendary attachments. Actually, it should be it returns the projectile prefab assigned to this weapon after finishing initialization. Cool. And I am now realizing all this is all well and good, but we're fucking forgetting something. Throwing spins a fucking stub. It's not throwing or spinning. We need to fix that. The entire point of projectile throwing spin was supposed to make the model of the projectile spin. It is currently not doing anything. Except for, you know, setting itself up so that it shows, and then when we hit... In fact, actually, is it even dropping on hit? I've noticed it's kind of not doing that, although I could probably also... It's probably actually because I forgot to set prefabs weapons. Can you not, please? I gotta figure out how to fix that. Yeah, okay. It's because we forgot to check drop weapon model on hit. The other thing that we need to fix is, we need an update. We can keep this thing spinning even if we're stopped, honestly. Because the idea is supposed to be that if we do want to keep the projectile around after it is hit, then we can we're going to be using its drop magazine thing anyways. Which for this, what we're going to do is I am going to hope that this works the way I want it to. Rotate around local is deprecated. What do you mean? Why is rotate around local deprecated? Can you tell me why it's deprecated? No? I have to put things in first? Transform.rotate. I'm upset. Rotates the object around the given axis by the number of degrees defined by the given angle. Oh, there's a space relative to parameter. Okay. 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 Space dot self. Goofy. But fine. Okay. Can we get a brick that spins? This is the new question. Now that we have managed to get all of this working, can we get a brick that spins and also drops a brick on the floor? A brick that despawns after a few seconds. If I remember correctly. Why are we still... This got broken again! Why did this get broken again? I have to restart fucking Unity! I don't understand what's causing Unity to not like my, localization system. Sometimes it just decides it's going to die. That's annoying. There was something else I actually wanted to check. Now I don't remember. But I'm going to have to kill Unity. Why is it always doing this? Where is Unity? Why don't I see Unity on my process list? Why can't I find Unity in my process list? Why can I not close this? What the fuck is going on here? I see Unity hubs. I see every single Unity hub in existence. There's like 5 instances of the unityhub.exe for some reason. I don't know why. But that's not the editor. That's the hub. Why the fuck can I not find the actual engine? Oh, there it is. Okay, there it is. For some reason, it's listed as C program files Unity Hub Editor. Okay, there we go. Found it. Get the fuck... Stop. Stop it. Get some help. I still don't know why exactly. It's specifically my custom importer for localization. And it never did that with Jack Schmidt. So I don't know why it started to do that. It just happens randomly, and then it never happens again until randomly later again. Maybe there's some sort of memory leak going on with it? That's one possibility. That Unity's not garbage collecting some of the import process correctly. That's the only theory I have on it. But anyways, what am I looking for? Grab you. Go back to you. I think the last thing that we need to do is throw the brick. I'm not seeing... Damn it. I've got to find a better way to, It's not spinning. Wait. Hold on. Spin C180, spin axis is 1 in the x-axis. That's just a backing field one. Wait. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Where is it? Where is it? No, set throne display. It's going here. Oh, I kept moving into set weapon display. Set our transform parent to that. Hold position and rotation zeroed out. We move the main weapon root to our transform. Which... I closed the game. Hang on. see what else is going on here. Interestingly enough, we have a rotation here. Oh! It's because I'm bad at math. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm bad at math. What's 360 divided by 60? That's 60, isn't it? Or 6. You just divide by 6. And that gives us the proper rotation. You know what would else help in terms of making sure that we don't suddenly have the localization explode Unity is putting the localization into its own assembly. I really need to organize my assemblies. It's rotating faster now, but that's still way slower than it should be. Actually, wait. Where are you at? The spin speed RPM is 180. It should mean that it's making 3 rotations per second. Just to confirm, make sure I'm not stupid. 60 times 6 is 360. Yes. That means that 180 divided by 6 is going to be 30. Which is not rotating as fast as I wanted to. Hang on. How did I fuck this up? $180 rotations per minute. We divide that by 60. That gives us 3 rotations per second. We multiply that by delta time. If we multiply delta time by 360, that means that we are making 1 rotation over the course of 1 second. So in theory, we would do dt times 360. Except at that point, we're multiplying spin speed RPM times 360, and then dividing that 360 by 60. Then spin speed RPM divided by 60. That'll be 3. Then we multiply 3 times the delta time times 360. Which, let's say that we're running at 60 frames per second, 1 divided by 60, so we have a delta time of this. We multiply this by 360. Multiply this by 3. That's 18 per thing. We multiply that by 60. That gives us 1080. That should be 18 degrees. By the number of degrees defined by the given angle. And the axis is correct. We're rotating on the x-axis. We're in the self-space. Where's my math going wrong on this? We know, because that's correct. Again, we have spin speed RPM 180, spin axis 1. This should be changing by a lot more than this. Hold on. Say the changes I just made. Theoretically, this whole thing, if x over a number, we multiply x over a number by something else, that is, x multiplied by something else over a number. And you should be able to simplify that. 360 divided by 60 is 6. Wait. I see where we went wrong. I see where we went wrong. This ought to fix it. I mean, yes, also the other way would work, but this is better. Okay. That's better. That's way better. That's what I'm fucking talking about. I'm gonna turn it up a little bit. 60 times 4.5? 270? Yeah, that sounds good. Wow, that range is really kind of limited if I'm not, like, pointed at a target. Oh, even if I'm pointing at a target. Wacky. I do need to set it up to auto-reload, too. I can also, like, lock on, and it's gonna give it slightly... Oh, wow, it's still not good. I think also part of it might just be the fact that we are throwing it from like mid-waist instead of where the character would be throwing it from, which is above their head. But still, yeah. Change that to 8. Now bump the things up. Go like 28 velocity. I may also need like that seems a little fast, honestly. I am also noticing it's not dropping a magazine like I was hoping. I wonder if maybe... we might not actually be calling that. Hang on. I mean... I know, because... this has it set, right? Yeah, this has the throwing spin set. Yeah, drop weapon model on hit. Expand this real quick. Drop magazine on spin handle position, which this should be the world position. And rotation. Or definition. Should select spare magazine to drop. Wait. Have we forgotten something? That we have. We do not have droppable magazines. That would track. Okay. Nice. There we go. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. Now we're throwing bricks. Okay. Yes. And these should, keyword should, expire after a bit. Keyword should. Yep, okay, yeah. One of them just disappeared. We may actually set it up with a, we might actually use the base weapons object pool, or magazine pool. Possibly, but I think it's fine this way, honestly. Alright. I have one last thing I would like to fix, and it's the oldest standing thing that really should be fixed already, and that is auto-reloading when empty. have that as a default value true. Because we might have a situation in which we don't want it to auto-reload on empty, but for sure we want to make sure it auto-reloads here. Alright. I'm probably going to run this through Campfire. Although... Base.Campfire... Base.Campfire does not check ammo. Good. Yes. It does still check if equipable is reloading. In that case, we will do the following. I know it sucks that we're doing an else if string here, but it makes sense why we're doing this way. Alright. Use equipable current ammunition. It looks like, in general, we do this. We will check if it is equal to 0. There might be a situation in which we want the weapon to just have unlimited ammo, or not check ammunition. I guess that might be just a custom script for that then. Might as well actually run it and can reload. Start reload. I think that's what we did. I could be wrong. It's part of base weapon behavior. We should probably call it on the equipable weapon instead. I see. There. Can reload. Does check our fire tick delay reload thing, so that's good. We do also want to check the other thing. Just trying to check if should auto reload empty, and we're empty, and we can reload, then start reload. All right. And now weapons should auto reload when drawing. Nice. And that reloads once it's done with its thing. Yep, okay. Now I got stuff going on. By the way, do you notice the brick is uncommon? It has one stripe on its little weapon nameplate. Ellie is a legendary weapon, so it has she has 3 stripes on her display. Meanwhile, the volley sidearm is a common, so it has no stripes and it is gray. I'm liking that all of this stuff works. Alright. got him. I missed. No, I didn't miss. I'm actually built different. Oh, I didn't actually finish reloading the brick. You know what's gonna need to be done next? Holstered auto reloads. Those gotta be done next. That's gotta be next. Actually, let's figure out where that is. Okay, how are we doing with this? We need to do this first. The HUD allowance for weapon backpack. I don't necessarily need a UI animation. We have added a few more weapons to equip, for sure. But the next thing I would like to do is holstered auto reload is the next thing we need to do so that we can actually do that strat. But again, a big thing that's going to be necessary for that is that we need the UI and the HUD elements for weapons and backpack. We need to get that fixed and ready to go. Yeah, I might want the dynamically drawn weapon display icon on HUD. We'll have to kind of figure out how to do that. I'd say that is a successful development session. Throw bricks. Throw them bricks. Celebrate the story. Yay. Easy peasy. I'm assuming we've gotten everything we need to do there. Or at least all of that should be related specifically to that. Looks like it. Looks like it. Yep. Push origin. So yeah. Other things that obviously also need to be worked on is the display for showing weapons, for like showing interactable things, weapons on the ground, doors. All of those need some better like interact prompts as well. Also, particle effects for item rarities, for weapon rarities. Those will need to be done. Extra particle effects for weapons that have... the hop-ups is still a thing that still needs to be done eventually. But, I think in terms of today's stream, I think we're probably at a good stopping point. At 3 hours and 44 minutes, and we threw our bricks. Our bricks have been thrown, and I'm excited about that. Yeah. Okay. By the way, to do change to sub-tick system similar to Reload speed. There's definitely something you need to do with that. Also, this is correct. We do need to compartmentalize this at some point. But for now, things are starting to look good. We've thrown bricks. We have done effective brick throwing. I'm very excited for the future. So close things down for the night, I think. I'm gonna switch over to chatting scene. I've got things pushed to the Git, so do stick around. We're gonna drop in on a friend of ours, as we usually do. But I am definitely going to be taking a dev break. Once we have everything ready to go here. Excuse me. Boy. Why does the Akashi SDF keep just, like, randomly updating for no reason? I do not understand that. And just that one, too. It's odd. Anyways, so, let me do stop raids. I'm gonna do plugs. I feel like I forgot plugs last couple of streams now I think about it. But we are working on, we're gonna drop in on a friend of ours as we usually do. Schedule ahead. Friday, we are playing a game that was made with one of the older versions of GameMaker, specifically GameMaker 7. It was entirely made with the free version of GameMaker 7, which is kind of fucking insane. It was all made in 1 month for a game jam, and it is a whole ass Metroidvania that also kind of plays like Mega Man Zero, and also you play as a magical girl. It's gonna be very fun. It's a game that I kind of hold near and dear to my heart. It has a lot of nostalgic value for me. Again, it's like at least 14 years old according to Game Jolt, but I feel like it might be even older than 14 years old. I feel like I was playing that like somewhere between 2005 and 2010. Possibly last played around 2014, but I definitely feel like I was playing it much before then. I picked it up much before then because it was, during the, I'm pretty sure I tried to actually get into, the Yo-Yo Games competition at the time. I'm pretty sure Discovery was one of the ones that I was trying to build a game for. It never actually finished because, you know me, I overscope like crazy. And in general, every time I go into a game jam, I just get anxiety and don't finish anything. But we are going to be, so that's Friday is Artillery F. If you recognize that name, then you know what we're in for. Artillery F is a great game by Mailrun, I believe. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm probably not saying that right. Oh well. I give it my best attempt. And then Saturday is, of course, Cackerel Craft, where we will be building trains, hopefully. Allegedly, Iris has come over and dropped off 27 stacks of glowstone blocks. That would be huge, and then we could get to not just building trains, but also possibly using that for some lighting as well. I still do want to make sure I can get my own automation stuff for glowstone, because she doesn't necessarily have it automated. But, I am very, very happy, very thankful for the generous donation of 27 stacks of glowstone blocks. Keep wanting to say gold blocks. We have no use for gold. There's uses for gold, but not that many. But that's Saturday. And Sunday, we're making another attempt at actually starting Ratchet and Clank 3, Going Commando with Olivia. I'm kind of excited for it. And hopefully it doesn't kick her ass, because it was kind of kicking my ass last week. And she's already not amazing at Ratchet and Clank. So, but we'll see. I think she'll enjoy it. I think she'll definitely enjoy a lot of the parts of it, and she might even, like, she's gonna end up going through the new hacker puzzle, and she's gonna be like 9 billion times better at it than I am, and I'm gonna be salty about it, because I hate the hacker puzzles in this game. But yeah, that's the plan ahead. And then next week, Wednesday, is gonna be when we do more game dev stuff. So that's the streaming schedule. Who are we dropping in on? Let's find out. I'm gonna check. Actually, let's check what Twitch is recommending to me. Nothing that's fully calling my whatchamacallit vibe check. I think we'll just check out who's on from my list. I would rather not do a gacha game. Minra playing Gran Turismo 4. That's an option. Floop doing Minecraft. Whiskey TK with only 5 viewers? Unless they... it's probably because they've just started. There's also Diesel. Dropping on Diesel. Certainly an option. Oh, there's Cyber Mermaid Comet's on, too. And she's playing, Unsighted. You haven't seen Comet in a while. You have not seen Comet in a while. Yeah, you're dropping a comment then. Oh yeah, let me do the, I forgot to keep that up. Nobody talked to me. Alright. I don't think anybody's around to do raid message, but if you would like to, don't forget, you can also just unlock the emote using channel points. It is very affordable here. It is $2.56 and then you choose it. You'll just choose that one specifically, and then you'll be able to join the raid message. But we're going to drop in on comment. So I'll make sure to click that to bring this over here. Put comment over here. There we go. And so, with that being said, ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between, thank you very much for tuning into my stream. Hope to see you guys next time then I'm on. Till then, this is Katon, over and out.